Hello and welcome to Talk Motivation with your host Elvis Eckardt, former pro athlete turned business owner, motivating you to achieve personal growth, form new habits, and find happiness in your career and life. Without further ado, let's jump right into today's episode.
Hello everybody, believe it or not, but I am still Elvis Eckardt and your host of Talk Motivation. I started the podcast when we first went into isolation here in the UK in April 2020 and really enjoy bringing episodes to you which give you, well, hopefully some food for thought. Make sure to visit our website www.elvis-eckardt.com/podcast where you can subscribe to the show on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts and other sources so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would be much appreciated too. Today's episode isn't a Talk Motivation episode per se. Today, I'm starting a monthly, maybe weekly format where I want to add some value to job seekers. I have a lot of them in my network, and being a recruitment and HR professional, I feel it would only be fair to pass some of my knowledge on to help the people who are either on dire straits or just want to change jobs but struggle with the situation. I will see how the first episode goes down and will collect some feedback after to see if it added value, and if so, I will add some more topics over the coming weeks and months. If you have a topic you want me to cover, just drop me a message either via LinkedIn or through hello@elvis-eckardt.com. Today, I chose a topic which I feel is sometimes a bit overseen, or you can't find too much info on the web. We will have a look at changing job titles on your resume, the do's and don'ts really. Sometimes you can change the official job title on your resume to increase your chances of getting interviews. So when can you and how do you do it without causing any issues down the line? Let's say you're applying for a new job. You have the skills, you have the experience, but what you don't have is the exact job title. This problem is more common than you might think. There's no list of official standardized job titles out there, even among the same industry. So what do you do if the names of your previous positions don't match the title of the job you're applying for? One avenue to consider is changing your job title, but you need to be careful how you do it. So, is it okay to change your job title on your resume? Well, the answer is sometimes. Like a lot of job hunting dilemmas, this one heavily depends on the small things. There are some situations when it's perfectly fine to change the job title from your official job on your resume, and some when that wouldn't fly at all. And you need to be able to tell the difference. So, why does your job title matter on your resume? Speaking out of experience, the average recruiter only spends a few seconds skimming over your resume before deciding whether you're a potential fit. In that time, they aren't deep diving into your accomplishments, but rather skimming through easily read sections, like your previous job titles for example, to see if you have the kind of experience they're looking for. The same principle applies to employers who use a so-called ATS, or applicant tracking system. These automated resume screeners scan for keywords, including hard skills, experience, and yes, you probably guessed it, job titles. Which means that having the right job title on your resume could make the difference between being automatically rejected and your CV landing on the hiring manager's desk. Let's have a look at a couple of scenarios. The first scenario is that the job titles generally mean the same thing. A lot of job titles are used interchangeably but still mean the same thing. Nobody is likely to care if you label yourself a social media manager instead of a social media marketing manager or social media engagement manager, as long as both titles are relatively similar and accurately reflect the nature of the work you were doing. In cases like this, it's okay to change your job title if it helps a potential employer better understand what it is you actually do or did. Depending on how different the two titles are, you can choose to use the more common title on its own or list it alongside your official job title. The second scenario is your official job title hasn't changed. If your role has substantially changed but your job title hasn't, that can be trickier to navigate. Maybe you've taken on additional responsibilities within the team, or you've been promoted but the system hasn't been officially updated to reflect your new title. If this is the case, there are generally 3 things you can do. The first one being, ask your manager for your official job title, ideally in writing. If you're listing the job title on your resume, you want to be 100% sure it is your actual title. Here's a tip. If you're concerned about giving away the fact that you're job searching, you can frame this as wanting the information for your company profile or for LinkedIn. The second tip is check in with HR about adjusting your title in the system. Obviously, give it some time if it's a recent change, but if it's been a while and your title still hasn't been updated, it's a good idea to ensure you haven't just fallen through the cracks. My third tip is to frame the new job title as a promotion on your resume. Whether your title has technically changed or not, doesn't matter. If you can't officially list the new job title, you can still make sure your accomplishments reflect your new responsibilities. My third scenario is if the positions are pretty different. If you held a completely different position, say you're currently a data entry clerk, but you're applying for a job as a financial analyst, you can't just change your job title. That's still true even if you were unofficially doing the same kind of job you're now applying for. If you've taken on additional responsibilities, you can talk about that in your resume summary and accomplishments, but you can't list those other responsibilities as if they were your official job title. If a hiring manager checks your references and finds you've listed the wrong job title, it'll raise some major red flags about your integrity and makes them wonder what else you've lied about. I hope some of this made sense. If not, drop me a message on LinkedIn and we'll have a look at your individual case.
You are listening to Talk Motivation, the podcast where you get your weekly dose of motivation. Now back to your host, Elvis Eckardt.
So just to recap some of the do's and don'ts. Don't list a completely different job title. Even if you were unofficially doing the same job, you can't take it upon yourself to retroactively change your job title. But do emphasize additional responsibilities in your resume summary and bullet point accomplishments. Don't list a job you never held. If you don't have any relevant experience, find other ways to add value to your resume. But do list accomplishments that highlight transferable skills and use a resume title to bypass the ATS. Don't use buzzwords. If your official job title doesn't clearly describe what you did, both the ATS and manual resume scans may assume you don't have the right background. But do list a standardized version of your job title alongside your official job title. Don't list positions that sound completely different from the title of the job you're applying for and hope recruiters are able to magically intuit what makes you a good fit. But do use an ATS resume scanner to suggest keywords you're missing. Just Google ATS resume scanner. There'll be plenty of options to choose from, like JobScan or SkillSyncer. There are many others out there though. Now, I do understand that we mostly looked at it out of the perspective of a job seeker, but what do hiring managers think of changing your title on the CV? Surveys have actually been done on this issue, believe it or not. Somewhat surprisingly, more than half of hiring managers, 54%, responded that it's okay to change a title. A smaller percentage, 43%, believe that lying is acceptable if the existing title doesn't reflect your responsibilities accurately. Please note though that the positive responses were only positive if the title modification was done for certain purposes. If prospective applicants changed their titles to highlight actual job responsibilities or to focus on their applicable skill set, it was acceptable. But if the reason was just to gain a higher title and a higher salary, the perception was much more negative. Having said all of that, many experienced hiring managers and human resources professionals, however, don't think it's okay. It's perceived as inflating your title unacceptably. More seriously, it's perceived as lying. Both can kill your chances of getting hired. The action calls your trustworthiness into question, and it's hard to make a case for hiring a candidate you don't trust or perceive as honest. Even if you interview with a hiring manager who accepts a change in your resume title or is unaware of it, a check of your references or background check might reveal that you haven't been totally honest. Please always be aware that you run the risk of being dropped from consideration at that point because you misrepresented your background on your resume. Some HR departments may have policies against hiring applicants whose resumes aren't accurate. Rule of thumb here: the best policy is to chart a middle path. Just don't overly change your title. You need to accurately represent the title your last company gave you. It is acceptable to put a more accurate, higher title in interim. However, just don't imply that an inaccurate title was your official title. Second, and that's something you should really, and when I say really, I mean really, use your achievements, qualifications, and skills to tell hiring managers and HR departments what you've accomplished. Always remember that your title only takes up a few words on your CV. The far more crucial part of any resume is highlighting your past achievements in a way that makes it clear what you can accomplish for a new organization. Let's say you spearheaded a marketing initiative that drove sales up by, let's say 25% last year. Be sure to focus on specific figures. Companies want to see applicants who can be additive to their bottom line, or in certain positions, cut costs. If you are applying for a role as a marketing director and were a marketing manager, leading a climb in sales figures is a far stronger argument for your hire than simply changing your title. But be prepared, many managers also may not be comfortable. Misrepresenting your official title may cause discomfort or even be perceived as a reflection on their management or their company. If they don't seem on board with the idea, the most prudent step is to abandon it. Again, make sure your resume highlights your achievements. That's the best way to land the interview and the job. Thanks for listening to Talk Motivation. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, please share the love and let your network know about it. Make sure to follow my YouTube page too. The channel name is Elvis Eckardt Recruitment. All of the episodes are on there too. Thank you so much for making this one of your favorite podcasts. Please do go subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes because it helps others to find the show, or better yet, just tell your family, friends and acquaintances about it. Everyone really who loves a bit of positivity. Feel free to also connect with me on LinkedIn and we can take the conversation there.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Talk Motivation with your host, Elvis Eckardt. To listen to this episode again and to find previous episodes, search Talk Motivation on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. Sayonara, muchachos!